Should there be a red light on?
Should be. Is yours on?
You're pretty good. I have to hold it down. It's on now. Oh, it just lost the way.
Well, nobody told me I had to do that.
Now you're on.
All this high tech. Good evening, everyone. My name's Irv Sugarman, and I'm the chairman of the Summit County Nonpartisan Independent Council Fair Districting Commission, and I'd like to call our meeting of October 5th, 2021 to order. Going to do the roll call. Mr. Callahan.
Present.
Ms. Buckholzer.
Here.
Ms. Carter.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting of September 28th, 2021.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have a presentation this evening from Todd Book, who has drawn a map and is going to present us with the draft plan dated October 5th of 2021. Todd, why don't you go ahead and make the presentation. After the presentation, I'll ask the members of the commission for any questions or comments. And I see a couple of people out in the audience tonight, and if there's any comments or questions from the audience, we'll entertain them at that time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
And commissioners, wanted to kind of do a little level setting before we actually put the map up on the big board, so we're all kind of on the same page. And whenever we first started down this road of looking at redrawing the lines here for Summit County, you have to look a little bit at the history of what's happened in the recent past to kind of give us some guidance going forward. And as we all know, there was a charter amendment, actually a couple competing charter amendments that were put on the ballot a few years back that we're discussing.
Could you make that a little bit bigger, is there any way?
Is that part of our handout, that chart?
No, but it will be.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if you can, Mike.
I'm just wondering if you can.
If not, maybe we ought to run and grab some copies of it.
No, that's all right. Go ahead. You can just walk us through.
Okay. But back to the history and just level setting a little bit. If you remember, there was these competing charter amendments, and the complaints that we were hearing, or that you all were hearing, and that we've heard subsequently, people were not happy that Bath Township had been split. They felt like that was an unnecessary thing. There was some concern about the multiple splits of Cuyahoga Falls and whether that was a necessary activity. And there was also a discussion or feeling that the African American community was not getting the representation that they could or should in these county map systems. So we have to remember that in 2015, the people did overwhelmingly vote to keep the maps as they were drawn in 2010. They said, we want these maps, but we also want this independent commission to be present in the future and follow these rules as it relates to not dividing townships and municipalities unnecessarily. So that's kind of what we come into this activity that we've undertaken. So your job, in many ways, was, and I just listed them here. One was to readjust the lines to reflect the population change and shift that's occurred. And you've seen that table. That's the table that's up there that you can't really read. I'm sorry, but those things in the yellow, I promise you, show that the numbers were out of whack. That we had too many people in the first district and not enough people in the seventh. That precipitated the need for some changes. No matter what, we were going to have to change those lines. The other job that you have was to follow the charter dictates of keeping townships and municipalities whole, knowing, however, that Akron is too large to be kept together as one unit, and it would have to be split. That would have to be part of the discussion, as Akron would be split, but try to keep the other townships and municipalities whole as best we could. A third job, and I think we've talked about it a couple meetings now, last meeting extensively, was to take the Voting Rights Act into consideration as we go forward and enter into this process. Knowing that after Mark discussed last week that there's a couple ways that the African American community can be harmed with in this redistricting process. One way is to pack the African American community into one district, so it's like a 90% African American district, which can guarantee some African American representation, but it also diminishes the power of the community by putting them all in one area, in one district. You could also be discriminatory by fracking the African American community into all of the districts, so where they only have 3 or 4 or 8 or 10% of the population, whenever they could have a much higher number and have more of an impact if you would do it in a more balanced way that reflects a thoughtful approach as it relates to the Voting Rights Act. We also needed to be cognizant, I think, of the electorate saying that the maps that were drawn in 2010 were something that they accepted. They thought that they were decent maps. They said that, keep steady as you go, but next time around, let's do better when it comes to the district lines as it relates to keeping communities together. But for now, we'll go ahead. So you come into this discussion from my perspective, and I think your all's perspective, you're not looking for wholesale change. You want to use the process to make a better map, a more fair map, that reflects the will of the people and also reflects the voting demographics of this county. So, Table 1, which is what's up here on the map, and I'm sorry, but we want to make copies of this and we'll get it to you, but this is the one you've seen several times, talking about the need for change, that the District 1 was too large and District 7 was too small. We had to modify those lines. So the next thing that we have is the draft map, so you can go ahead and go over to that, Mike. And I'm sorry for everybody here, but there's copies of it on the map, so if anybody, or on the table if anybody wants it. Okay. So this is the draft map that we put together under your all's direction with the idea being to meet those requirements that we laid out. I just laid out just a few seconds ago to all of you. So one thing to first notice is people were concerned and interested in where the current council members are located, and you'll notice on the map, on the draft map, there are several red triangles. Those red triangles designate where the current council member lives in that district. Okay? And you can see on 3, I had a hard time when I first looked. I said, Gloria's right on the line. So she's in the district, but she's right there. That's where her little red triangle is. So how did we in this map process, how did you all, through our assistance, make some changes? First off, in District 1, which is on the north side of the county, that's Rita's council district. District 1 had too many people, if you remember. We were out of whack, so we had to do something to adjust that district. And what we did to correct that problem was District 1 will lose 2 pieces of territory, and I think on your map, you also have beside the current map, the current map and right beside your draft map, we handed that out to you. You can see that District 1 loses Boston Heights, and it also loses that part of Cuyahoga Falls that sticks down into what was then District 2, I believe, or maybe even District 3. And that handles 2 things. By getting rid of that population from District 1, it gets it in line, but it also allows us to bring Cuyahoga Falls back together, because under the current maps, it's split in 3 places. So this is one step in trying to bring Cuyahoga Falls back into one unit. So that's District 1, and that addresses the population issue there. District 2 is Councilman Schmidt's district, and it rotates to the north. If you look at the current district, it is Cuyahoga Falls, part of Akron, and Monroe Falls. But because Cuyahoga Falls needs to stay together as a unit under the new charter requirements, Cuyahoga Falls stays together, which means then that District 2 will be, as it's laid out there, would be all of Cuyahoga Falls and a little bit of Akron to fill out the balance of that district so we meet the population requirements. That's District 2. District 3, currently held by Gloria Rogers, it loses a piece of the Cuyahoga Falls. If you see the current map, it kind of has a little alleyway there and juts over and takes some of Cuyahoga Falls. We needed to be able to bring Cuyahoga Falls all back together, so by District 3 losing that portion of Cuyahoga Falls, it needed to gain population in other areas, and we bring District 3 in line population-wise by bringing in Boston Heights, which is contiguous to current parts of District 3, and also by bringing in Monroe Falls. Make sense so far? We're trying to be contiguous and bring things into that are touching as best we can. District 4 is probably the one district that created the most problems politically in the media last time because it included part of Bath Township. That's where Bath was split. So we took 4 and we took the part of Bath away, and we also made District 4 a district that's completely within the bounds of Akron. Okay? And it also has, and we'll point out here in just a little bit, it also has a significant minority population now in District 4. District 5 is switched to gain all of Bath Township. Previously it had the western portion. Now it has all of Bath. And it has more of Akron. And it also becomes, as before, is an area with a strong minority population. And it currently has an African-American council person, Veronica Sims, currently serving in that district. District 6 gains a little bit more of Akron. It doesn't change all that dramatically, but it does change a little to reflect the change in other portions of the map. Whereas District 7 was the one that was missing people, so we had to bring people in to that district. And what really kind of ends up happening is the vast majority of the district stays the same. However, Bethany McKinney, the current councilwoman there, will receive more of a different part of Akron, actually, because there's a higher population base in that portion of Akron. So she would receive, or that district would receive that portion of Akron. And District 8 loses a portion of Akron that was given to District 7. So District 8 was on the upward trend a little bit in population as District 7 was going down. So that is the draft map and how it reflects the needed changes given the fact that we have had some population shifts. Go to the next slide there. Just push the down. Okay, there we go. That is the map, and if you're like me, I couldn't really make a lot of sense of it. Those red lines are what the current district looks like, but we got you a map of the current district so you can look at them side by side. It's a little easier to follow. But those red lines show where the former district was, but I've just explained to you that makeup of those changes. Okay. Go to the next slide, Michael. And that map shows the city of Akron in the dark black line. And you can see that District 4 is completely within the city of Akron. However, the city is split up into 5 other districts. Part of it is split up into the 5 other districts, which is in line with what was happening in the last map. The last map had Akron was put into 6 different districts. It's the same this time, but one district is completely inside the city as opposed to last time they were all split up into various portions. So that is how the city is. Now, and we realize that this is a county map, not a city map. And we're talking about representing the people of the county, so we have to keep that in consideration. But understanding that Akron obviously is the largest city in the community and needs to be represented. I think many people would argue if you look at that map with the city, I think how many people? I don't find it here. Yeah, you have 1, 2, 3 of the council people are actually living in the city currently. So, and you can argue, I know whenever I was involved in counties were being split up, they may not like the fact that they have 2 representatives. They'd rather have 1 representative representing the entire county, but that would give them 2 people to speak for them. So in this situation, Akron does have 6 different council folks looking out for their needs, even if they don't live necessarily in the city, as we go forward. And then the last table I think we have there, Michael, is the population, and we'll get copies of this for you all. We'll go ahead and get that. But I'll explain to you while Mike's getting those.
Actually, I zip map is in here, so after you're done with your spiel.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that. We expected that to be a little bit bigger. But the deviation in population, we are within the parameters now of the 5% up or down, so we took care of that. And now in the 4th and in the 5th district, the African American population in those 2 districts, all age population that identifies African American or partial African American will be 39.5% in the 4th district and 36.1% in the 5th district. So a sizable African American population in both of those 2 districts. But that is the draft map that has been put together at your all's direction, with emphasis, Mr. Chairman, being on that it's a draft, and that I think we all expect commissioners and the folks working on my side of this to work with you over the coming week or 2 to get input and hear from people and see what changes or tweaks that need to happen, but realize that this kind of is on a knife's edge to a degree, in the sense that if you move one thing, then you pretty much have to move everything else as we go forward. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Very good, thanks. Any members of the commission have any questions for Todd?
Yeah, I want to ask a question on, it's good to have, I guess, the 4th district go from maybe 23% African American to 32 points, something like that, 32%, 33%. I think that's good. Was it also taken into consideration when you do the maps that Akron, the reason we started getting Akron, the 5th district was all Akron from the beginning of the districting. It had the 3rd ward, the 4th ward, half the 8th, and half the 5th ward. It was the reason that Dykes, who was the guy in charge, Bob Dykes, I think is his name, is because Akron, the 5th district, lost 7,000 people from the 1990 census to the year 2000 census, and that's why Copley and Fairlawn was added, and eventually part of Bath. Okay, was it taken into consideration the 5% loss of population in the 5th and mainly the 5th and the 6th, the 5th and the 4th district? Was that taken into consideration?
Actually, it was on the 5th. Once Mike gets this number to you, get these to you, you'll see that in the 5th district, we are 650 people over when it comes to the average population, simply because there's an expectation. Now realize, when you guys draft this map and finish this map and finalize it and agree to it, that is the moment in time that matters, right? If there's population changes over the next 3 or 4 years or 5 years, that's next time around, 10 years from now, whenever they adjust for the census, they'll do that. So it's not really our job necessarily to try to foresee what's going to happen, because we don't really know when it comes to population shifts as much. But we do know at that moment in time, we want to be within the deviations.
Yeah.
So that's the case as we've drafted the maps, yes.
I know at the time that we went from all at large council people to districts, the one of the things that was taken into consideration was that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and that is why Akron was concerned that Akron be represented. I think at that time Akron had 40% of the population or something like that. And but the overall thing was, because of what happened in the past in the county under the commissioners, they wanted good government, not just throwing around numbers, but good government. And I think that was part of the thing that Akron wanted to be a part of. Yeah, make sure Akron was represented.
I appreciate that, and Mr. Chairman, I think that's the goal, I think, of this commission, is to create maps that are conducive to good government, to follow the charter requirements, to keep communities whole, to keep townships whole, and to also take the Voting Rights Act into consideration as we make these determinations.
Correct. Mr. Callahan.
Todd, in the past, I guess 3+ decades that we've been under this charter form of government, have we had a district wholly inside the city of Akron before?
I believe in 2000 there was one. District 4 at that point was, but I did not look back beyond that, to be honest. But this definitely has one, and Carell may be able to tell us.
You had District 5, you had 3rd Ward, the 4th Ward, half the 5th Ward.
That was at the beginning?
And half the 8th Ward. It was a totally, from the inception, it was a totally inside of Akron. And then Poppy and Fairlawn, and eventually part of Back was added because of the lost population in the city. That started.
Initially.
Right. So to answer your question, yes, we did initially have District 5 was completely within the city of Akron.
Now, under this proposed map, it would be District 4. That would be right in the center of the city.
Any further questions from you? Sure.
I would just like to thank Mr. Book for the presentation. The draft plan or map, to me, is logical in terms of community synergy and flow based on the demographics and politics and so forth. I do think also we are attempting to better address the equity that we've talked about in previous commission sessions in terms of giving African Americans in particular a greater opportunity to compete for county seats based on this draft. So I look forward to continuing conversations around this process.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Bob Holzer, any questions? Okay, I know that we're going to have some time for public comment in a few minutes. And I think it might be an opportunity to go ahead and do that. Before I open it up to the folks that are in the audience here today, I would like to read some information into the record. The commission received an email on or about October 1st from Pat Simons and Jody Delamatre, and that's Simons, and Delamatre is Delamatre, from the League of Women Voters of Hudson and the League of Women Voters from the Akron area. There were 2 attachments to the email, which I have here. I'm not going to read all of this into the record. What I will tell you is that these will be posted on the Summit County Executive website for anybody to review. I will read the email into the record, however. We are writing as representatives of Summit County Leagues of Women Voters, LWV Hudson and LWV Akron area. Greta Johnson has directed us to contact you in order to get written public input into the hands of the Nonpartisan Independent Redistricting Commission. We're asking that they receive this in time for the next meeting on October 5th, 2021. There are 2 documents and attachment to be delivered. The first document is a 1-page letter to the commission with our input. The second document is a copy of our recommendations sent to council president, administrative staff, and legal counsel as a follow-up to an April 2021 meeting. We are offering the second document as perspective of the league's position and criteria on redistricting, including map drawing, along with our assessment of the current charter apportionment language that was discussed in the April meeting. Please don't hesitate to contact Pat Simons and her emails there, or Jody Delamontre and her emails there with any questions. Thank you for facilitating the delivery of our public input to the Commission for the October 5th meeting. Please confirm that you have received this email, which he did, and we appreciate that. Again, these documents are available on the County Executive's website. And with that, I would open the floor up to anybody who, and I guess I'd also note that we have a representative of the League of Women Voters here, whose name is Hannon, thank you. And Ms. Hannon is here on behalf of the League of Women Voters. Would you like to make any comment, a public comment tonight? Okay. Don't mean to put you on the spot, but there aren't a heck of a lot of people here, so we want to do. Are there any other comments or questions that either Todd can answer for us, or maybe the members of the commission?
Hey, good evening. I'm Cynthia Blake. Thank you, and thank you, Todd, for your map. But I still want to urge the commission to please consider an additional district in Akron as a goodwill to the people, from the African American population. I know he broke it down to say 36 and 39, and I didn't know if Mr. Saling, or was it Dr. Saling, he said he was going to run the 2020 census figures, and I would like to see that, as I had gave an example before. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, Mr. Salem couldn't make it tonight. He's working on that. He's having a tremendously hard time, though, Mr. Chairman, trying to make that happen, because once you do that, then you start having to divide other areas of the county, which we're not allowed to under the charter.
Okay.
So, but he's working on that.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Dickinson?
Just have a question out of curiosity. Yes, Claire Dickinson, 884 Alder Run Way, Akron. Todd, I see this little blue oval that's in what's otherwise...
A sea of Barberton.
Yeah, what's that?
That is part of, believe it or not, and I, Mr. Chairman, I have, because I had the same question. If part of Coventry.
I thought that's what you were going to say. It's surprising.
Yeah, and even though those areas are not contiguous necessarily under the charter, even if they're not, we're allowed to keep them together, and we should, since they are
right. I recall.
Municipality.
And since I'm up here, I'll make another observation. The current 3 at-large members of the council all live within the city of Akron as well.
Okay.
Thank you. See, Mr. Darlington?
And I'll apologize to Todd for arriving late. Came straight from work, but today was the first day of early voting, so it got a little delayed. Wayne Darlington, 995 East End Avenue in Akron. To the boundaries, it looks like we have 6 different districts are going to have some portion of the city of Akron.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Do the sections that slice in, are we following current ward boundaries?
Mr. Chairman, we are not, because I think you said last time that the ward boundaries would be changing.
They will. I'm just curious if this is following current ward boundaries.
No, they are not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a breakdown either by precinct or by something that more clearly defines where these boundaries are currently drawn?
Yeah, absolutely. There are. I did not want to overwhelm everyone.
No, I understand. I just, like I said, I didn't know what I missed arriving late.
That's part of the presentation this evening.
Very good. Again, we appreciate your efforts. I guess I'll go back and again reiterate what I did last week, that I would hope that we, especially if we're going to have 6 different districts all in some portion, either wholly or partially in Akron, that the commission reach out to the city of Akron and find out if they've done any preliminary work on where these new ward boundaries are going to be, because, again, I'll go back through the numbers just off the top of my head. 5 of Akron's 10 wards have 3 different county council members. We're not talking at large, we're talking about the district seats. 4 of the wards have, 5 have 2, 4 have 3, and there's 1 ward that has just a single council member. And again, it kind of looks like we'll be in that same situation. And as a resident of Akron, I know my particular ward, when we have 3 different council members, it's very difficult to get any traction when the majority of their district is not your ward, times 3. So again, I appreciate your efforts. You're playing with the cards that were dealt to you. Hopefully we can do the best you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
So, given Mr. Darlington's comments, my question to Mr. Book is that consideration even our scope? I hear what he's saying, I understand what he's saying, but that process the city of Akron will pursue, that doesn't impact our scope of work.
Mr. Chairman and Vice Chair, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're, in the perfect world, it'd be great to be able to run those, but I mean, the reality is the city has this is a county map, not a city map, and it can become, unfortunately, it can create confusion for the voters because there could be, but the way this is set up is this is a county map, and we're not tied to the city wards.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's going to be put on our scope. Thank
Yes.
you.
Do we have any more comments from the public? Mr. Kenny?
Bethany McKinney, 5706 Sherwood Forest Drive, New Franklin. So this is just a question. Thank you, everybody, for doing this. So I wasn't able to see what the actual proposed population breakdown would be. Is that something that that the public would be provided or is available? Oh, it's there. Okay.
Yeah. We just made copies. Sorry, we assumed that was going to be a lot bigger, but it wasn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I heard it referred to, but it's good to know the numbers.
We'll have a copy for you to take home. Do you have an extra copy?
I do.
Great.
I do.
So,
is there anything in particular about 7?
living in Southern Summit, I just about the proposed map. Basically, what you're saying is you'd be taking Akron population from District 8 and putting it in District 7.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other than the deputy, there's one other person in the audience. Is there any other further questions or comments? By the way, we appreciate your being here this evening. We'll try not to get too rowdy for you.
I don't have a comment, but I do have one more question because after what she just asked, Todd.
Sure, come on up to the microphone, would you
I'm
please?
sorry.
No problem.
It's just a question, I'm sorry.
Again, Cynthia Blake, 928 Bisson. So back to what her question was, with adding, was that 8 to 8? 5. Okay, the District 7, what confused me about District 7 was Ward 7, the city, the Ward 7 Kenmore area, of what it had in common with farmland currently, because I think you serve New Franklin, Clinton, and Norton. And that was just pretty much it.
Okay, if there's any further questions from the commission, we're all good? All right, let's talk for a minute about where we're going to go with this. We are not going to meet next Tuesday. which would be the 12th.
Right.
Our next meeting is scheduled for October 19th at 6 o'clock. That'll give everyone a couple of weeks to look this over. If they have any questions, obviously the commission members can reach out to Todd and see where we're going to go from there. I do want to remind everyone that the public can submit comments to the commission via email at feedback@summitoh.com, which is the county executive's website. And there's actually a link to the commission's webpage. Obviously, it's helpful if we're going to get some additional comments, and we thank you, the people who showed up tonight and last week for the public comment. We continue to send out information to the media about our meetings. I was thinking today, and I don't know how the commission feels about this, but I just wanted to, thinking about it on the way over. Now that we have a draft map, it might be worth putting out some type of a press release so that we can get some additional media coverage. If everybody's good with that, I see at least one person nodding. I see that. And I think that at least it'll show that we're making an effort to get out to the public and ask for any further comment. We could put the, obviously the meeting date. We could also put the link to the executive's website out there as well. So I can work with the executive's office and Todd in putting something together to get that out within the next week or so. And I would just encourage anyone, if there's anybody else who wants to address the commission, please do so. I don't have anything further this evening. Todd, did I forget anything, or are we all good?
No, you covered. I want to make sure people were aware that there is a way to make comments through the executive's website, and you did that. And we're coming back on the 19th for more public comment. Yeah.
And go ahead, Mr. Callahan.
I just have a couple of questions on what we're thinking. First, well, a question and then maybe a comment. Would we anticipate somebody else coming forward with saying, we don't like your draft plan, here's our draft plan?
I've not heard anything like that. I mean,
nor have I.
I'm just curious because, you know, clearly there are people that aren't going to be happy with maybe bits and pieces of it, but I'd be anxious to hear what, you know, if you got a plan, let me see it. And then secondly, would we envision perhaps adopting this plan in the next meeting? Because I think if we're going to, you know, I think if that's at least a potential, that ought to be included in the release so people know, hey folks, this ain't going on for another 3 months. You know, we're going to adopt something. If you, now's the time to step up and come in and say your piece. And if we're not, that's fine too, but I just think maybe we should, I see our advertising is doing a big push getting people here, but, you know, maybe if they know that this is, you know, and again, I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying, if we're going to do it that week, or we're going to do it the next week, I think we should announce in advance that at least that's a potential, so people understand, you know, if you want to come and complain, you better get there for this one.
I think that's a really valid point, and I think we should take that approach when we do something like that.
Okay.
And I can tell you my personal feeling is, you know, first of all, I wanted to express my appreciation. I think this is a great start to what it is that we need to do. It certainly is not necessarily the final draft, and we want to take into account anything that we haven't heard before. My thought is we're going to have a couple of weeks to look at this. If, in fact, we're satisfied with this or some version of it, I would certainly entertain a motion to approve this map at the next meeting on the 19th. If there's a groundswell of opposition, if there are any additional comments that we need to take into consideration, I think I speak for my fellow commissioners that nobody is going to rush this through. If there's some questions or comments that we're going to be able to address, we have to move it back a week or further, then I think we're all certainly willing to do so. But if we're all generally okay with this, I see no reason not to go ahead. Ms. McKinney, I saw that you raised your hand. I think Mr. Darlington had.
And I don't know if you possibly misspoke when you were giving the domain name or the web address. You said summitoh.com. It's actually summitoh.net.
And I appreciate that.
No problem. And just if it was on the press release and they can't get it there, it doesn't help.
Well, the press release will be, somebody else will do that, and it'll be right. So at least you're paying attention. That's good. Way to go. Did you have anything further?
Just, it's kind of a big deal to see a proposed map, and so I think there should be opportunity for the public to comment before, and you know, before a decision is made by you guys, so
I think that's exactly what I'm proposing. Is
Right,
that we're,
exactly.
we want to do a press release. We want to make sure that the proper website is in that press release. If we have further comments, if we have somebody that comes forward with some additional proposals or different proposals, we're all willing to take that into consideration. We encourage, we're encouraging public participation.
Yeah.
I wish, I think we all wish there were more people here to take advantage of this process. And I think we're all willing to keep an open mind as to exactly what it is that we're here to do. So, any further comments after that? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, the ayes have it.
Aye.
That's it? Can I see your packet on the way Those two. That's what
Yeah, I'm going to. I saw your name today on
It's going to go to
Yeah. The other part.
I read it real quick.
But I was
It's going to be,
years ago.
Oh,
Put in there.
now it's 39.5 days when you mix in here and all the rest of
We laugh all the
42.
time. We say,
But once they change it, it's going to be 33.
There you go.
y'all take
They're
care.
going down 5.
No problem. See y'all.
Going down 5
See y'all.
districts.
All right, I guess we're going.
But this book, going from 23 to
I might be losing.
I mean, it's a phenomenal
City outline, if not, I can give you mine.
Well, no problem, Mark. You can email it to me or.
Everything will be up on the website.
But this is part of it is,
It just doesn't
I mean, I know we do know about precinct, all the
Yeah, they do.
So like I said, from the 1990s to 2000, 7,000 people.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Really, a rehash of the other thing. General marks out there.